A young woman walks down a dimly lit alleyway on her way home from college. Unaware of the danger, she heads toward a car park where a man waits for her. She notices a well-dressed man struggling to carry books to his Volkswagen Beetle. One of his arms is in a sling. Feeling sympathy, she offers to help. Polite, softly spoken man thanks her warmly. As she leans into the passenger seat to place the books inside, he strikes her over the head with a tire iron. He quickly gets into the driver's seat and leaves the scene. Later, he will strangle her, just as he did to many others. He will do unspeakable things to her body. He is the quintessential maniac. His name is Ted Bundy. This scene describes Bundy's typical planned modus operandi. Relied on his good looks, charm, and educated demeanor to lure victims. He often wore an arm sling or used crutches to appear harmless and gain trust. How dangerous could a well-dressed man on crutches driving a cute car possibly be? This tactic made him incredibly difficult to catch. Bundy did not fit the common image of a serial killer, committed horrific acts both during and after the murders. He should have been caught much earlier. Witnesses repeatedly described a man with an arm in a sling near the abduction sites. On several occasions, they mentioned seeing him near a Volkswagen Beetle. 22-year-old Brenda Carol Ball was last seen talking to a man with brown hair and an arm in a sling in a car park. Soon after, Susan Elaine Runcourt vanished. 2 witnesses reported being approached by a man wearing a sling. He asked for help loading books into his VW Beetle. On June 11, 1974, University of Washington student George Ann Hawkins disappeared. Her body was never found. She had been walking home to her sorority house after midnight. A male friend driving by shouted to her from his car. They chatted briefly about her upcoming Spanish exam. Witnesses later described seeing a man with an arm in a sling lurking in a nearby alley. One woman said he had asked her to help load a briefcase into a light brown Volkswagen Beetle. She had no idea how close she came to becoming his victim. Hawkins was not so fortunate. She fell for the trick. Bundy later described what happened. When she got close to the car, he knocked her unconscious with a crowbar. When she regained consciousness, she was confused and strangely seemed to think he was there to help her study Spanish. She was in shock. Bundy later remarked, "It's odd the kinds of things people will say under those circumstances." He strangled her and dumped her body, returned to the remains at least 3 times. The thought of him visiting a decomposing corpse reveals how deeply disturbed he was. He had his twisted reasons. Bundy was incredibly brazen, believed he was too intelligent to be caught. He had worked in politics and served as assistant director of the Seattle Crime Prevention Advisory Committee, even writing a paper on rape prevention. He also worked at the Department of Emergency Services discussing missing women. This confidence led him to return to the alley the day after abducting Hawkins. While police investigated, he casually picked up one of the girl's shoes and her necklace, hiding in plain sight. Sometimes he sneaked into basements at night and bludgeoned sleeping victims with an iron bar. He was like a boogeyman, attacking people at their most vulnerable. Yet he was also a skilled con artist who excelled at gaining trust. Investigators knew that many missing girls had last been seen with a man wearing an arm sling who drove a VW Beetle. Despite this consistent pattern, Bundy remained free for a long time. His reign of terror was still in its early stages. The public grew fearful. Young people stopped hitchhiking, and many became wary of strangers or leaving windows open at night. Young white women felt the greatest fear. Bundy's victims were almost always in their late teens or early 20s. They were Caucasian, attractive, intelligent, and often university students. Many disappeared from colleges where construction work was underway. Investigators wondered if the cases were connected, but they had little forensic evidence and no bodies. Still, nothing suggested the girls had simply run away. Only weeks after Hawkins vanished, 2 women were abducted in broad daylight at Lake Sammamish State Park near Seattle. Bundy had first approached 5 women in the park. Speaking in what sounded like a Canadian or British accent, he introduced himself as Ted. Dressed in a white tennis outfit with one arm in a sling, he politely asked for help unloading a sailboat from his bronze-colored Volkswagen Beetle. 4 women refused, but one followed him. She escaped when she realized there was no sailboat. That day, Bundy successfully abducted 2 women. Both were killed. Once claimed he killed one in front of the other, but later recanted this detail near his execution. This is not primarily a story about the crimes themselves. The central question is how the police failed to catch Bundy sooner, despite his repeated use of the same car, the same sling trick, and the same modus operandi. He even told some victims his real first name was Ted. The police now had a good description and a sketch that closely resembled him. It appeared in newspapers and on television. One of Bundy's co-workers at the Department of Emergency Services saw the sketch and recognized him, especially after hearing about the Volkswagen Beetle. She called the police. Another acquaintance did the same. However, officers were receiving up to 200 similar tips daily. They quickly dismissed the idea that a clean-cut law student with no criminal record could be responsible. Serial killers didn't look like that, they believed. Pressure was mounting, and Bundy knew it. A couple of months after his last known murder in the area, bones of his victims began to surface. Fortunately for him, he had been accepted to the University of Utah Law School. He moved south in August 1974. He was in Utah only a month before he started killing again. His victims included a hitchhiker on September 2nd, a 16-year-old girl on October 2nd, and a 17-year-old girl from a pizza parlor on October 18th. The last victim was the daughter of a police chief. Her body was found on a hiking trail. The autopsy suggested Bundy had kept her alive for up to 7 days. All victims suffered extreme brutality. Years later, Bundy admitted that after killing them, he would shampoo their hair and apply makeup to make them look as he wanted. He kept their remains for his own twisted pleasure. Sometimes he severed heads, stored them in his apartment, dressed the bodies, and took photographs. When you work hard to do something right, he once said, you don't want to forget it. More abductions and murders followed. After reading about the Utah crimes, Elizabeth Klopfer, who had dated Bundy in Washington, contacted police in both King County and Salt Lake County. She believed the sketch looked like Ted, the car matched, and the pattern was too coincidental. She continued speaking with him on the phone but never revealed her suspicions to him. Bundy then began killing in Colorado. The methods remained similar: blunt force trauma, sometimes strangulation, with bodies often mutilated or dressed in different clothes. By the end of 1975 and throughout 1976, more victims disappeared, some never to be found. Washington police only seriously considered Bundy after they began using a new computer database. They entered details of the crimes and found that out of thousands of names, only 26 matched the pattern. Bundy's name was among them. The challenge was linking the murders across different states, as there was no centralized national database at the time. Eventually, Bundy was pulled over by police in a Salt Lake City suburb while acting suspiciously. A search of his car revealed a disturbing collection: a ski mask, trash bags, handcuffs, a crowbar, rope, and an ice pick. These items strongly suggested a serial killer's toolkit. Police also had the earlier tip from his former lover. However, after searching his home, they still lacked sufficient evidence for murder charges. Notably, they missed a collection of photographs of his victims. Bundy was released but placed under heavy surveillance. Investigators from Utah, Washington, and Colorado finally met to share information. They were convinced they had a depraved serial killer. Before they could charge him with murder, he faced trial for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. He was convicted and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in Utah State Prison. While incarcerated, he was charged with 1 murder. Desperate and fearing the death penalty, Bundy chose to represent himself. This allowed him to appear in court without handcuffs or shackles. During one court appearance, he escaped through a library window. He survived 6 days in the Aspen wilderness before being recaptured. Believing the case against him was growing stronger, Bundy planned another escape. Over 6 months, he obtained a floor plan of the jail, saved money, and acquired a hacksaw. On December 30th, 1977, he stuffed his bed with books to simulate sleeping, climbed through the ceiling into an apartment, changed into civilian clothes, and walked out of the jail. He traveled from Colorado to Chicago, then Atlanta, and finally to Florida using stolen cars. On January 15, 1978, he entered a sorority house at Florida State University. In a brutal 15-minute rampage, he assaulted, bludgeoned, strangled, and bit 3 sleeping women in different rooms. 2 survived but were severely injured. He then attacked another woman in a nearby apartment, fracturing her skull and jaw, and left behind his pantyhose mask. Police also recovered sperm and hair evidence. A few days later in Jacksonville, he abducted and killed a 12-year-old girl. Shortly afterward, a police officer stopped him. Bundy kicked the officer and tried to flee. The cop fired warning shots, but Bundy continued running. He was eventually tackled and subdued. Even then, the arresting officer had no idea he had captured one of America's most wanted fugitives. Sitting handcuffed in the patrol car, Bundy said to the officer, "I wish you had killed me." He was finally done. Eventually, he confessed to 30 murders, though the true number may have been higher. On January 24, 1989, at the age of 42, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. His last words were, "I'd like you to give my love to my family and friends."